At the National Security Council, there is a committee that meets every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock to draw up something called the kill list. They sit around a table and they make a list of all the people that they want to kill that week. And they decided to put the worst surveillance officer in their entire intelligence service on me. And if I hadn't said something that afternoon, he would be in the ground today.
The CIA has a kill list, and the CIA spies on American citizens through their cell phones. This is something that John Kiriakou, CIA whistleblower, discloses in a recent LAD Bible series called The Honesty Box. And let's just say a lot of the revelations reveal a dark underbelly of the deep state that most Americans should know more about. So let's watch this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
The first one is, what did the CIA actually do? There are several answers to that question. What the CIA is supposed to do, what it is legally tasked with doing, is very simply to recruit spies, to steal secrets, and then to analyze those secrets to give the president and other senior policymakers the best information with which they can make policy. Now, in real life, it's not that simple. The CIA does whatever the president tells it to do. That could be to overthrow foreign governments. It could be to implement covert action programs, to influence the foreign media, to even kill people. It just depends on who the president is and what policy he wants to implement.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look at Operation Mockingbird, the CIA's attempt to influence media in the United States, or MKUltra, psychological experiences and experiments on Americans, or Operation Northwoods, a designed attempt to engage in a false flag attack, killing Americans to justify overthrowing the Castro regime in Cuba. This is actually what the CIA does. It sells regime change wars and orchestrates coups, much to the chagrin of the people that want to tote the line that they're just out here to protect us.
What skills make a good agent? You might be surprised by the answer, actually. The CIA, when it recruits spies, when it recruits operations officers, doesn't necessarily look for the big, buff guy who works out every day or 6 days a week. They look for people who have sociopathic tendencies, not sociopaths. Sociopaths are impossible to control because they have no conscience. They blow right through a polygraph exam, but they won't take orders. People who have sociopathic tendencies do react to a polygraph. They do experience regret or remorse. They will respond to directives and orders. I'll give you an example. When I first was recruited by the CIA, I was asked in a group of new hires what we would do if we got a cable from CIA headquarters ordering us to collect information on the Indonesian economy. You recruit the Indonesian economic secretary, you make him your best friend, you spend money on him, your wives become friends, you vacation together, but you learn that he is just not recruitable. So what do? Well, one of my colleagues said, you double down, work the case another 6 months, and hope for the best. A second colleague said, maybe you work it through your wives, maybe your wife can convince his wife to give you the information. I raised my hand and I said, you break into the Indonesian embassy and you steal it. And the instructor said, that's exactly what you do. That's a sociopathic tendency.
Yeah, that is actually a little bit surprising to me, not exactly for the reasons he said. I'm not surprised at all that the CIA looks for those with sociopathic tendencies to fill their ranks, but I actually thought that my impression was that they would look for people that don't have indiscretions that would spill CIA secrets, like, say, people that would be prone to abusing alcohol or prostitution and things like that. Vices that may allow the deep state secrets to slip in an environment that they certainly don't want them to slip. So this is an interesting revelation and, something that sheds a lot of light on the people that fill the ranks of the CIA. Not sociopaths, as he says, that wouldn't follow orders, but those that, would be prone to doing immoral behaviors, but still follow orders. It tells you really everything you need to know, I think, about the CIA.
What's the coolest piece of spy tech you ever got to use? You know, there's kind of a dirty little secret about spy tech, and it is that 95% of it is purchased from Amazon.com. Seriously. Because it is cheaper and it is quicker just to go online and buy it and then use it operationally than it is to invent it from scratch. The coolest piece of spy tech that I ever used was, it was a leather briefcase. I just went into the local marketplace in Pakistan and bought it. I think it cost the equivalent of like $10. And over the course of 3 days, one of our technical officers pulled the threads out of it, installed a wire all the way around the briefcase, which could act as a listening device, and then packed the area around the wire with these little teeny tiny batteries that I had never seen before. And then he sewed the whole thing close again. So I walked into a meeting with my little briefcase. The bad guy took the briefcase from me, opened it up, looked through it. It didn't have anything in it because it was all sewn into the lining. And we sat there and had the meeting while my colleagues half a mile away were able to listen to the entire thing. It was very cool.
Interesting. Wouldn't necessarily expect that either. You get this impression that the deep state and the CIA, the FBI, etc., has all this, military style technology, but he's saying that, the CIA becomes MacGyver of sorts, taking things that can be purchased on Amazon and found in the wild and just modifying them to meet their expectations. That's something I think a lot of Americans wouldn't know either.
Does the CIA listen through our phones and laptop cameras? Yes. I hate to say it. There was a dramatic leak in 2017 that the CIA came to call the Vault 7 disclosures. Gigabytes worth of documents leaked by a CIA technology engineer. What he told us was that the CIA can intercept anything from anyone, number one. Number two, they can remotely take control of your car through the car's embedded computer. To do what? To make you drive off a bridge, into a tree, to make you kill yourself and make it look like an accident. They can take over your smart television and turn the speaker into a microphone so that they can listen to what's being said in the room even when the TV is turned off. God knows what else that they can do that hasn't been leaked.
And just think about that, and it's a horrifying prospect, a total violation of America's civil liberties and privacy rights, and this goes far beyond the CIA because we know from the Snowden revelations from over a decade ago that there's a mass bulk data collection scheme where the providers are sending your information from your conversations, from your internet chats, etc., to the government through the NSA. It's a mass harvesting system called PRISM that Snowden blew the roof off. Well, has that stopped at all? No, it hasn't. There's still wireless, warrantless wiretapping in that regard that they're doing without a warrant as the Fourth Amendment requires, and now there's schemes to expand that further through Palantir and data aggregation and using AI to sort through this data that otherwise would be almost impossible to sort through to give a conclusive statement about what's found inside. Makes the tools of violating our rights even easier for the government that Palantir is engaging on and using the same technology to decide, say, who lives or dies in Gaza. And how wars will be fought in the future through pre-crime schemes. They've used programs that have been piloted in New Orleans, for instance, to be put in major police departments in the United States to engage in dystopian pre-crime schemes like you see in Minority Report. This is actually playing out in history, trying to predict pre-crime behaviors based upon people's propensities to supposedly commit those crimes. It's a horrifying thing.
Are hitmen real? Yes. At the National Security Council, there is a committee that meets every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock to draw up something called the kill list. They sit around a table and they make a list of all the people that they want to kill that week. And then they take it back to the CIA, which has a dedicated unit, I won't tell you the name, but it has a dedicated unit that takes receipt of the list. They say, okay, number one. They drive to the airport, they get on the plane, they go out to that country, they kill the person, they come back, and then they go to number two on the list. That happens every single week. Now, we can have a conversation about whether that's right or whether it's wrong. It's certainly immoral. It's illegal, but it's been tasked by the president. At the same time, they will tell you there hasn't been another 9/11, has there? Maybe it's because we're out there killing people.
What kind of people would be on that list?
Oh, the most dangerous terrorists in the world. Or at least people that the CIA deems to be the most dangerous terrorists in the world.
Yeah, guess who's one of them they deem to be one of the worst terrorists in the world? Julian Assange. We have Hillary Clinton supporting droning Julian Assange, and it's not just her. In the first Trump administration, Pompeo orchestrated a kidnapping scheme to try to kidnap Assange and an eventual dismantlement strategy where they would execute Assange under the first Trump administration. So it goes beyond Clinton, goes into the Republican Party deep state security apparatus, and this is who they consider some of the greatest terrorists in the world. And this leaked memo proves that Hillary Clinton wanted that. So the kill list goes beyond the most crazy terrorists in the world and actually extended to American citizens. If you're aware of that, under the Obama administration, the son of a guy named Awlaki, he was a spiritual leader, supposedly, of Al-Qaeda. The United States drone bombed his son that was a teenager, not involved operationally in any of the aspects of Al-Qaeda, and an American citizen. That's who's the greatest terrorist in the world in their minds. That's the kill list. That's the truth about it.
How does the CIA recruit spies in foreign countries? That cuts right to the very heart of what the CIA is. The CIA trains its officers in something called the asset acquisition cycle. It has 4 steps: spot, assess, develop, recruit. So let's say you're a brand new CIA officer overseas. You get out there and mingle and go to diplomatic cocktail parties or go anywhere where there might be a viable target for you. You spot the target, you go up, "Hi, how are you? I'm the new officer at the American Embassy. I'm covering political affairs or economic affairs or trade or whatever it is you're doing." You exchange business cards. That's spotting. Assessing is I say, "So what do you do for a living?" If you tell me that you do something that I'm operationally interested in, that's my assessment of you. Then I develop you. That's actually the fun part. That is us going to lunch and going to dinner, and I spend money on you because I have literally an unlimited budget to do so. And maybe we go on vacation together, and our wives are friends, and you mention offhandedly that you like to go fishing, let's say, so I charter a boat for $4,000 and I take you deep sea fishing because you could never afford to do it on your own. And then we become best friends. And because we're best friends, I say to you, "Hey, would you do me a favor? I'm sorry to ask, but the Russians have this new tank, and I know that you guys have access to the plans, and I would really appreciate it if you could just make me a copy of those plans. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it would help me a lot. So, hey, thanks, I appreciate it. I'll pick them up tonight." And then maybe I start giving you a little bit of money. And then finally, when it comes to the recruitment, I say, "I haven't been totally honest with you. I'm actually a CIA officer, undercover. Are you okay with that? You're a great guy, and you're my best friend, and how about if I give you $5,000 a month, and you just answer my questions, right? That's cool, right?" And you undoubtedly will say yes, and the rest is history.
Got to be a good actor to do that, pull that off. Yeah.
And a sociopath.
So you can see they're looking for people with sociopathic tendencies both in the United States and out of the United States to extract data. And you can see why, some of this stuff just becomes too absurd, that this is being defended in the United States with an unlimited, essentially, CIA budget. And that is why, in most major cases, most of the CIA budget is totally classified. We can't even know how much Americans are being fleeced to support this deep state underbelly on our behalf. And they engage in this behavior to try to extract secrets from other places in our name, despite us not even knowing how much money goes into it. But it's really much more than that. What they're trying to do is propagandize Americans to support wars based upon ostensible and specious reasons, in many cases, like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That's just the truth.
Do you ever fear for your life? Not now, but over the course of my career, I did several times. And I'll give you one example. There were 2 active assassination attempts against me. In one, I just got lucky. And unfortunately, my next door neighbor was killed instead. He was the British defense attaché in Athens, Brigadier General Stephen Saunders. I think about it every single day. In another, an enemy country sent one of its officers and a double agent to kill me, but we had advance warning that it was going to happen, and we were able to neutralize the threat, as they say in the movies. But there was another experience that I had that troubled me deeply. I was serving in Pakistan at the time, and I was staying in a small guest house because it was safer than a big hotel. Sure enough, the big hotel was blown up and 45 people were killed while I was living there. But I left my guest house at a different time, like I did every day, and took a different route, like I did every day, to go to work. And I noticed that a man on a motorcycle wearing a red helmet was trying very hard to stay in my blind spot. I worked 12, 14 hours, whatever it was that day, and I left, and it was dark, and sure enough, there he was again. There's a definition of surveillance. It's multiple sightings at time and distance. So I've seen him multiple times at different times of the day and at different places. I'm definitely under surveillance. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, got in the car, drove a block, there he was again. So when I got to the office, I said to the security officer, I am under surveillance. I'm 100% sure that I'm under surveillance. He said, well, let's wait until the chief comes in. When the chief finally came in, I told him the story, and he said, well, you know what you have to do. I said, I know. I'm going to kill him if I see him this afternoon. I was worried about it all day, and all my coworkers came up to me that day to slap me on the back and say, don't worry, we're all going to be out there. We're going to have a whole security team. I said, I know, but I never killed anybody before, and I'm so worried that he's going to kill me before I get a clear shot at him.
Just think of the situations mentally you're thrust into as a CIA officer like John Kiriakou. To put men in this kind of situation is just unconscionable to me. And that's the CIA, right? That's CIA officers joining this, many cases for patriotic reasons. They truly believe that they're protecting the United States. And then when it comes down to it, they're placed in the position of having to murder people if necessary. And it's not exactly a defensible murder like that person tried to murder you first. It's the suspicion that they might, and, you're going to be backed institutionally in this murder. It's the same thing that goes on with the war masters in Washington urging people to commit murders overseas for the American empire. It's just totally unjustified in every single way. I'm blown away by this.
That afternoon, I had a meeting at a safe house that we shared with the local service. And on my way out at the end of the meeting, and I don't know why I did this, but I turned around and I said, General, are you following me? And he said, no, why? And I said, because I'm under surveillance. And if I see this guy again, I'm going to kill him. And I never saw him again. I learned later that several of their officers were sitting around and saying, that new American guy, he's such a nice guy. Nobody's that nice. I wonder if he's being nice just to try to make us drop our guard. And they decided to put the worst surveillance officer in their entire intelligence service on me. And if I hadn't said something that afternoon, he would be in the ground today.
Wow, just think of that. It's his comment in that meeting that took this guy's life from a situation of he would probably be murdered by a CIA officer to he's not going to be murdered now. And this is it's just so unfathomable, I think, for the typical person to wrap their minds around all aspects of this, the psychological warfare in mind. And maybe that's because they're so specialized in who they recruit. It has to be people with sociopathic tendencies that they also don't believe are sociopathic. Now, I think some of the deep state apparatus has to be filled with pure sociopaths to do what they do without, feeling sympathy or remorse. And people like Clapper and Brennan and people like J. Edgar Hoover and Alan Dulles that have filled the halls of the deep state and engaged in some of the worst evil doing of all time, like the overthrow and coups in, Iran and all over the world. In Ukraine, most recently in 2014, you had the Guatemala overthrow in 54. You had the Bay of Pigs fiasco, and then you had them orchestrating Operation Northwoods again, which would have killed Americans just to justify a military invasion of Cuba. It's just completely abhorrent in every single way. Now, Kiriakou actually also mentioned the death of Stephen Saunders. He was in Athens, a British Army officer that had died there. If you want to read more about that, read Kiriakou's biography. It's called Reluctant Spy. Excellent book in every single way. Kiriakou's a hero in my mind in so many ways. He's most famous for exposing U.S. torture techniques against the U.S. Constitution and against American values through sleep deprivation and waterboarding, most famously so. And you can read a lot about that in Reluctant Spy as well. But in the years since, even though he got a 30-month prison sentence for leaking information about this, heroically so, by the way, to journalists, he's been vindicated in this. It's totally wrong. It's immoral in every single way. Even so much so is that the Senate Intelligence Committee had to release a report in many ways vindicating him, that it was unconscionable, it can't be justified, and we shouldn't support this as Americans. But even though his ideas have been vindicated, he himself has not been. He deserves a full pardon and medals for what he exposed to the public on that regard. And I love to hear what he has to say about the CIA and the deep state in general. I think this was an excellent video filled with a lot of things that Americans could learn a lot about and how their government truly behaves versus what we're told they do in terms of behaving, right? They're a reflection of our interests. They're only looking out for us. They would never do anything to betray us, but it seems like they really do betray us in the most egregious ways in so many regards in terms of propagandizing Americans to support the wars, supporting regime change operations, all sorts of clandestine behaviors that don't benefit America. There's nothing about this deep state foreign policy apparatus that benefits America in any sense. We have debt, we have destruction, thousands of soldiers coming back in body bags, a global empire that never pays off. Which one of the countries that the U.S. has overthrown in my lifetime has gotten Americans off on a better foot or has been better for that country? There just aren't any. From Libya to Syria to Iraq to Afghanistan to Somalia, which we're still bombing, none of those have paid off. And it's our relationship with the deep state and with Israel that has been the source of many troubles for the United States. But what do you guys think? Do you think Kiriakou's right? What was the most interesting part of this in your mind? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to LAD Bible. Awesome segment. I really love this video, and there's more in the fuller length version, so check that out. And please, if you like this video, consider supporting the channel as a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button down below. And if you do that, you can gain access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. I really appreciate your support if you do that, and you'll be able to watch those members-only videos immediately if you do. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll send you off to a website. Plug in your email, and I'll send you that copy of that book in PDF form, free of charge. No obligation whatsoever, just because I appreciate you watching. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.